Welcome back to Kramer Farms. It's a beautiful day in the bee yard, so we're going to do a bee check of the packages we put in. It's been about a month. I've been continuously checking them and feeding them to make sure the queens are released and they're laying. So the progress is doing well, and we'll show you what's going on. Okay, let's see how the first hive looks here. As you can see, there's bees up the top. They come out and sit on top of the inner cover. So this hive looks good. There are bees spreading out. A good little smoke. That calms them down a little. They go deeper into the hive. They think a fire is coming, so they're going to go eat some honey, and in case they have to evacuate, they'll have their stomachs full. Then when they go to a new home, they'll at least have some food with them. So we're going to use our hive tool and pry out a frame and see how it's doing. Yes, this is a beautiful frame right here of brood. So this section of honeycomb here with these dull cappings is all brood. So these are young bees in here that'll be hatching, and some of them already are hatching. So you can see here this very fuzzy little yellow one has just hatched. So that's a brand new bee just coming into life. This one is not quite so fuzzy. He's probably a day or so old. So one thing you'll notice is also some pollen in here, and maybe on the edge of the frame you'll see some honey over there. So with this frame, as you can see, one bee covers about three honeycombs on there. So when each of these hatch and come out of there, one bee will then cover 3 times as much space. So with this one frame of brood, we'll then end up with 3 frames of bees. So this box will fill up very quickly. Here on the other side, there's not as much brood, so this is brood over here. There's more pollen over here. So they keep this all close, the pollen and the honey, to feed the young, to feed the larvae as they're developing. So this is another good frame, but they are getting a lot of extra brood in there, or not extra brood in there, extra pollen in there. And so eventually I'll have to clean this out and get rid of it. We'll set that one aside. And here's another excellent frame of bees and brood. So again, this hive will explode. Like I said, this one frame of brood here will end up with 3 frames of bees. So they'll quickly run out of space once all this hatches. Here's some more baby bees right there that just came out. So some of the original eggs that were laid by the queen when we put her in here are all starting to come out. So it won't be long, and this will be a very, very busy hive. So let's look at some of the new foundation. So that was all existing foundation that we put in there. So I put in some brand new frames and new plastic foundation. This is coated with beeswax to encourage the bees to be on there. And you can see they're starting to draw out the honeycomb there. They've got a little pollen in there. And this shiny liquid is the honey they're making. It's probably just the sugar water I'm feeding them. That's why when you're feeding them, you don't want to collect honey, because it's bees don't care what type of sugar water it is, whether it comes from a flower or it comes out of a bag of sugar. It's hard to see in here. You may be able to see it or not, but there are some eggs down in here. So the queen has been on this frame and she's laid a few eggs. So we don't need to find the queen at all. If we can find there's eggs, eggs from the time the queen lays them until they hatch and become larvae is about 3 days. So we know there's been a queen on this frame in the last 3 days. This side they haven't started yet, so I'm going to move this frame into the middle of the colony. That will encourage them to work it up faster. We will then put the existing frame more to the outside. We'll check this other frame over here, this other new one. And we get a treat. So we get to see the queen right here walking around. As you can see, little tiny eggs down in the bottom. They're much easier to see against the black background of this. But overall, very good. We found the queen. She is laying eggs. So this is a healthy colony. So this is another colony I've looked into, and I found a nice frame of brood. Also down in this frame you can see the little white larvae. So after the eggs hatch, down in this section you can see some very tiny ones down in the bottom. They grow very quickly up through sizes, and once they're to the point where they're standing up in the cell, they're too big to curl up anymore, then they get capped over. So that takes about a week from the time they hatch to they're capped over, and then another couple weeks of being capped and the bees will hatch. Again, this is another very full frame of brood. So this will be 3 frames worth of bees. So it won't be long for these colonies, and I will need to add a second box. So these deep hive bodies are where they raise their young and where they'll spend the winter. So we start out with 1, and as they fill this up and get all these frames drawn out, then we'll add a second box on there. Once that one's all filled out, then we will stop feeding them and get ready for collecting honey. We will add the honey supers on there if it's not too late in the year by the time they get to that point. And then we will start collecting honey. On this frame of bees, we see something a little different. So these capped cells here are all worker bees. The size of them is much smaller, so they can be flat. So these lumpy ones here are male bees or drones. They're a much larger bee, so that's why those are all raised up in there, because they are a bigger bee. This section in here is them not capped off. You can also see this whole section, the whole progression. There's eggs to small larvae to large larvae, all the way up to the capped larvae. We also get to see the queen bee. Wherever she went, she was just there. She may have walked around. Oh, there she is, clear over here. So this is also a healthy colony. We've got all kinds of brood, eggs. We see the queen. They're storing pollen. They've got honey. They've also got some male bees in progress. This side, you can see them building out wax. So this, again, is a very healthy colony. This, again, is a very healthy frame of bees. So over on this edge, down in the black, It's maybe difficult to see down in the bottom the eggs that are in there. And smaller larvae, see they're just a day or two old because they don't even fill the bottom of the cell. And then older larvae, they're almost too big to curl up in there, and then they'll stand up, and then up in the top, the sealed larvae. So overall, we had a very good day in the bee yard. The bees are all healthy. So thank you for watching today. If you like this video, hit like on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and have a great day, because it's a great day to be a bee.